Hi, welcome to Unlocking Secrets with Brittany. So I wanted to try something just a little different right now. I mentioned a couple of books to read in a previous video, a previous posting. But what I want to do is I want to open the books randomly and see what we get. So the first book is Chrysalids. Here. So the page that I opened to, and what is this? We're at page 41. I'm actually going to open to page 41 of the next book as well. We don't know what's there. So we'll see if it can correlate together. Okay. Most of the numerous precepts, arguments, and examples in ethics were condensed for us into this. The duty and purpose of man in this world is to fight unceasingly against the evils that tribulation loosed upon it. Above all, he must see that human form is kept true to the divine pattern in order that one day it may be permitted to regain the high place in which, as the image of God, it was set. However, I did not talk much about this part of ethics to Sophie. Not, I think, because I ever actually classified her in my mind as a deviation, but it had to be admitted that she did not quite qualify as a true image, so it seemed more tactful to avoid that aspect, and there were plenty of other things to talk about. Well, that's interesting. So that's basically keeping your beliefs to yourself and your ideas to yourself, because you don't see another person to be worthy as a true image. Well, what would a true image be for you? Technically, you are your true image. We're all kind of looking for someone who is a bit like us to be friends with or partners with or colleagues with even. You want to find a company to work for that speaks to you and works on the same wavelength as you or has the same moral systems or the same processes and procedures that you're comfortable with. Most of the numerous precepts, arguments, and examples in ethics were condensed for us into this. The duty and purpose of man in this world is to fight unceasingly against the evils that tribulation loosed upon it. Let's look up what tribulation means in the dictionary. Hold on, please. Because we're excited about this. Pardon me, we are excited about this. Tribulation. And screaming from over there at the same time. Ooh. A cause of great trouble or suffering. Okay. A cause of great suffering or troubling. Or great trouble, pardon me. A cause of great trouble or suffering. The duty and purpose of man is in this world is to fight unceasingly against the evils that great trouble or suffering have loosed upon it. Well, this makes me want to cry, you guys. Above all, he must see that the human form is kept true to the divine pattern in order that one day it may be permitted to regain the high place in which, as the image of God, it was set. Okay, so this is The Chrysalids by John Wyndham. And what is a deviation by definition? I did not see her as a deviation. It did not see Sophie as the act of departing from an established course or accepted standard. the amount by which a single measurement differs from a fixed value such as the mean. He did not see her differently than to be a true image, though it had to be admitted that she did not qualify as a true image. But he didn't see her that way. He saw her in her own divine presence, her own authentic place. He saw her for who she was. But there were plenty of other things to talk about. So instead of talking about something truth and authentic to himself, to Sophie, it was easier to talk about other things. That sounds about right. If we're, dealing with a tribulation or great trouble or suffering, chances are we don't open that can of worms with someone that we see to be as their own divine image, as their own highest self. And the reason for that is what I call the unevolved ego. Is because we are fragile. Because we are fragile. Because we were designed that way. Because we stopped designing. Because we don't design. We leave it up to chance, to ebb and flow through our experiences and who's around us, as opposed to putting in a concerted effort to see our own divine selves, to see our own true authentic self, to hear our own true authentic voice, because everything around is static. So the frequency's off. Okay. Okay. Page 41 in the Chrysalids. Okay. So let's go to page 41 of George Orwell's 1984. Times 14.2.84. Mini Plenty, mal-quoted, chocolate rectify, times 3.12.83. Reporting BB, day order, double plusin, good refs, unpersons, rewrite, full wise, upsub, anti-filing. Okay, I'm going to have to break that one down on its own, but we'll do that after. With a faint feeling of satisfaction, Winston laid the fourth message aside. It was an intricate and responsible job and had better be dealt with last. The other three were routine matters, though the second one would probably mean some tedious wading through lists of figures. Winston dialed back numbers on the telescreen and called for the appropriate issues of the Times, which slid out of the pneumatic tube after only a few minutes' delay. The messages he had received referred to articles or news items which, for one reason or another, it was thought necessary to alter, or, as the official phrase had it, to rectify. For example, it appeared from the Times of the 17th of March that Big Brother, in his speech of the previous day, had predicted that the South Indian front would remain quiet, but that a Eurasian offensive would shortly be launched in North Africa. It had happened. The Eurasian Higher Command had launched its As it happened, the Eurasian Higher Command had launched its offensive in South India and left North Africa alone. It was therefore necessary to rewrite a paragraph of Big Brother's speech in such a way as to make him predict the thing that had actually happened. Or again, the Times of the 19th of December had published the official forecasts of the output of various classes of consumption goods in the fourth quarter of 1983, which was also the sixth quarter of the ninth three-year plan. Today's issue contained a statement of the actual output, from which it appeared that the forecasts were in every instance grossly wrong. Winston's job was to rectify the original figures by making them agree with the later ones. As for the third message, it referred to a very simple error which could be set right in a couple of minutes. As short a time ago as February, the Ministry of Plenty had. Well, that's exactly what we're doing. If it was prophesized wrong because the language was different, then later on we would go back and look at it, reevaluate it, and make it make sense. Because if you didn't see somebody as their own authentic self, and instead saw only your projections of what you feel and see on someone else, you would alter. The messages he had received referred to articles or news items for which, one reason or another, it was thought necessary to alter, or, as the official phrase had it, to rectify. You know, over the last 2 years with COVID, in March, it's interesting. What the heck? What date did that just say? March what? The 17th of March, that Big Brother had his speech of the previous day. Ooh, let's Google. Hold on. Let's try it. March 17, 2020. Oh, that's weird. Okay, so the search engine says March 17, 2020, and the next possible option is to December 2020, and this says, or again, the Times of the 19th of December had published the official forecasts of the output of various classes of consumption goods in the fourth quarter of 1983, the year prior. That would be in 2020 if now is 2021. Okay, so we're going to look up what came up on Tuesday, March 17th. Headlines from the New York Times, March 17th, Tuesday, 2020. Trump urges limits amid pandemic, but stops short of national mandates. America's economy begins to shut down as pandemic measures take hold. Italy's coronavirus victims face death alone, with funerals postponed. Think cheating in baseball is bad? Try chess. This is how the coronavirus will destroy the economy. Think cheating in baseball is bad? Try chess. And the videos say, "Our lives are at stake. U.S. residents scramble to find coronavirus testing. Try getting it yourselves," Trump tells governors about respirators. Watch. Biden and Sanders clash in Democratic debate. Every one of these things has changed. Every one of these things was continuously relaunched with As it happened, the Eurasian Higher Command had launched its offensive in South India and left North Africa alone. It was therefore necessary to rewrite a paragraph of Big Brother's speech in such a way as to make him predict the thing that had actually happened. I'm not going to lie to you, I'm not entirely certain where all of this is going. But let's go to back numbers. What are these numbers all about? Okay. 14, 2, that's a gauge of wire. I do know that. 14.2.84, mini plenty malquoted, the Orwell Society. Look, it's right there. Okay, children presenting to a Canadian hospital with a trampoline. Oh, with trampoline-related injuries are preventable by avoidance. There are a few... Trampoline-related injuries are preventable by avoidance. But it had to be admitted that she did not quite qualify as a true image, so it seemed more tactful to avoid that aspect, and there were plenty of other things to talk about. Okay. We're going to go ahead and put that down for just a second. And there's a receipt. Let's see what this is. Carbohydrate metabolism and myocardial infarction. I'm just looking at that number still. I'm curious. Another one is about a watercolor on paper, a Gerard Richter painting. Also an IP range location. Ooh, here's that. I probably should not click on that. We won't. It's good. Okay, we're gonna do this. 1038. What does that come up? That's the cost of this book. What is 1038 as a fraction? Here we will show you step by step how to convert 1038 to a fraction. Well, that's basically what this entire channel is about. It's about turning and showing you how to turn all of these different aspects of your life into fractions of the stress that they actually are. It's like that whole KISS, keep it simple, sweetheart. Okay, that was strange. That's not what I expected. Above all, he must see that the human form is kept true to the divine pattern in order that one day it may be permitted to regain the high place in which it was set. I'm not going to go ahead and start correlating that to the whole, all those Trump post that I read, you are welcome to. I encourage you to use your brain if you want, but that, ooh, ooh. I'm going to read the back of this book to you, actually, because that stands out to me. The Chrysalids is set in the future after a devastating global nuclear war. David, the young hero of the novel, lives in a tight-knit community of religious and genetic fundamentalists, always on the alert for any deviation from the norm of God's creation. Abnormal plants are publicly burned, with much singing of hymns. Abnormal humans, who are not really human, are also condemned to destruction, unless they succeed in fleeing to the fringes, that wild country where, as the authorities say, nothing is reliable and the devil does his work. David grows up ringed by admonitions. Keep pure the stock of the Lord. Watch thou for the mutant. At first he does not question. Then, however, he realizes that he too is out of the ordinary, in possession of a power that could doom him to death or introduce him to a new, hitherto unimagined world of freedom. The Chrysalids is a perfectly conceived and constructed work from the classic era of science fiction, a Voltairean philosophical tale that has as much resonance in our own day when religious and scientific dogmatism are both on the march, as when it was written during the Cold War. It's time to start questioning. It's time to start realizing that you are not ordinary. Nope. But you, as we all, are in possession of a power that could doom us to our death or introduce us to our new, hitherto unimagined world of freedom. That living death that I was talking about in the other videos. John Wyndham's portrait of a community driven to authoritarian madness by its overwhelming fear of difference, in this case of genetic mutations in the aftermath of nuclear war, finds its echoes in every society. We're not necessarily in a nuclear war, but every day that you wake up, you engage in mental warfare with one person or another, and especially yourself. It's time to start questioning, y'all. We're going to wake up now. And we're going to find out exactly who we are and who our authentic voice is. And we're going to squash the unevolved ego. Because it doesn't get to run the show anymore. You know, over time, all of the works of art, all of the works of labor, the labors of love, have become our tree of knowledge. We're going to avoid it. We're going to go ahead and fertilize that one. Water her. Sit underneath it. Read a book. Under the shadows. Interesting. an interesting interpretation of that. Huh. They keep saying both in March. When religious and scientific dogmatism are both on the march, as when it was written during the Cold War. When religious and scientific dogmatism, the tendency to lay down principles as incontrovertibly true, without consideration of evidence or the opinions of others, a culture of dogmatism and fanaticism. In a way that is impossible to doubt because of being obviously true. Your assertion is incontrovertibly true. He is incontrovertibly a success. When religious and scientific dogmatism are both on the march, as when it was written during the Cold War. I'll tell you right now, my Cold War, my personal Cold War, that was a few years back now. And we are still heading out of that. We being me. It's a perfectly conceived and constructed work from the classic era of science fiction. Okay. Well, that was interesting. Let me know if you have any thoughts on that. I'm definitely going to have to rewatch this one and play around with this, because I don't know. There was a lot of pieces there. I have to put all that together in another way, but we just came up with that together right now. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I'm actually really curious. If anybody has any thoughts on that one, let me know. Okay. Have a good day. Bye. Also, join the journey.